The power of the build-up. Why the journey is the reward. Have you ever noticed how a woman can spend weeks obsessing over the details of a vacation, scouring reviews, picking out specific outfits, and mapping out every sunset spot? And she seems to be having more fun during the planning than she does when she finally hits the beach. It's easy to dismiss this as just being organized or overthinking, but there is a deep neurological engine driving that behavior. This is known as the anticipation effect. In the female brain, the reward system is uniquely tuned to the pre-game rather than the main event. While many men are wired to be goal-oriented, focusing on the finish line or the physical prize, the female brain often finds a more intense chemical satisfaction in the climb. This isn't a personality quirk, it is a hardwired preference for the build-up over the arrival. When a woman is in the phase of looking forward to something, her brain is essentially a dopamine factory. Dopamine is the chemical of desire and pursuit, and for women, the levels of this neurotransmitter often peak before the reward is even touched. This explains why the early chase phase of a relationship feels like a literal drug. The unread text message, the mystery of what the next date will be, and the what-if scenarios create a neurological high that is often more powerful than the actual date itself. It is the psychological equivalent of the trailer being more exciting than the movie. If you want to understand why she remembers a stray comment you made 3 months ago with perfect clarity, it's because that comment was a piece of the puzzle in the build-up. Her brain tagged it as a significant clue in the journey she was already mentally mapping out. The danger zone for any connection, or even a personal goal, is when things become entirely predictable. The moment the mystery evaporates, the routine becomes a flat line, that dopamine production drops off a cliff. To her brain, the game is over because the destination has been reached. This is why keeping the spark alive isn't just a cliché, it's a biological necessity. You have to keep the build-up going by introducing small elements of the unknown, planning future surprises, or maintaining a sense of personal growth and mystery. For her, the journey isn't just a metaphor or a path to get somewhere else. The journey is the destination. If the journey stops moving, the engagement stops with it. Truth through repetition, rewiring the internal reality. Now, let's talk about a psychological phenomenon that is as powerful as it is dangerous: the illusory truth effect. This is the brain's tendency to believe that a piece of information is true simply because it has been repeated multiple times. For women whose brains are often highly attuned to social cues and community feedback, this effect can be life-altering. Think about it. If she hears a specific narrative about her looks, her intelligence, or her value from social media, her friends, or a partner, her brain starts to bypass the fact-checking phase. After the 5th or 10th time hearing the same message, the brain stops asking, "Is this true?" and starts assuming, "This is familiar, so it must be a fact." This isn't about being gullible or weak-minded. It is actually an ancient evolutionary survival mechanism tied to pattern recognition. Thousands of years ago, if everyone in the tribe repeated the warning that a certain berry was poisonous, the women who internalized that message without needing to test it themselves were the ones who survived. We are the descendants of the women who listened to community wisdom. In the modern world, however, this survival mechanism can be hijacked. If a woman is surrounded by negative self-talk or critical voices that constantly repeat that she isn't enough, those messages eventually become her operating system. They physically reshape her internal reality until she can no longer see the objective truth, only the repeated lie. The incredible silver lining here is that this hack works in both directions. Since the brain equates repetition with truth, you can intentionally use this to rewire an internal narrative. Positive, empowering, and affirming messages, when repeated consistently, don't just provide a temporary feel-good moment, they actually create new neural pathways. By flooding her environment with truth-based, high-value affirmations, she can eventually override the old negative truths that were planted by mistake. It is a biological edit of the soul. When you understand that the brain prioritizes what it hears most often over what is actually real, you realize that you have the power to curate the truth of your own life by simply changing the frequency of the messages you allow to play on repeat. The empathy overload, the burden of living multiple lives. Imagine having a brain that is biologically incapable of being a bystander to someone else's pain. This is the reality of hyperactive mirror neurons. In the female brain, these specialized cells are on a permanent state of high alert. When you walk into a room feeling stressed, angry, or defeated, she doesn't just look at you and think, "He seems upset." Instead, her brain performs a near-instant neurological simulation of your exact emotional state. Her mirror neurons fire as if she were the one experiencing the setback. This is empathy on a cellular level. It means that when your heart rate spikes due to anxiety, her heart rate often follows suit. When your cortisol levels rise because of a bad day at the office, her body begins to flood with the same stress hormones. She isn't just being supportive, she is literally feeling a version of your pain as if it were her own. This neurological mirroring is what makes women such incredible partners, friends, and nurturers. They can read a room or a person with superhuman accuracy because they are physically experiencing the data. However, there is a massive hidden cost to this gift. It is physically and mentally exhausting. Carrying the weight of your own life is hard enough, but when your brain is constantly forced to simulate the emotional lives of your partner, your children, your friends, and even your co-workers, you are effectively living multiple lives simultaneously. This leads to a state of emotional contagion, where the negativity of others can act like a physical drain on her battery. This is precisely why emotional recalibration isn't a luxury for women. It's a survival requirement. When she pulls away or asks for alone time after a high-energy social event or a tense day, she isn't rejecting you or distancing herself from the relationship. She is trying to find a quiet space where her mirror neurons can finally stop firing so she can figure out which feelings are actually hers and which ones she caught from the people around her. The forbidden fruit response, the psychology of autonomy. If you want to make an option 10 times more attractive to a woman, the fastest way to do it is to tell her it's off limits. This isn't about being difficult or rebellious. It is a deep-seated psychological phenomenon called psychological reactance. Human beings have a natural drive for self-determination, but for women, this drive is often amplified by a historical and cultural backdrop of being told no. For centuries, the narrative around women has been one of restriction: what they should wear, how they should speak, and what roles they are allowed to inhabit. Because of this, any modern attempt to restrict a woman's autonomy, even in small, seemingly insignificant ways, triggers a massive internal pushback. To her brain, a restriction isn't just a suggestion, it's a threat to her fundamental freedom. The moment a partner, a boss, or a social circle tries to set rules or exert control, a defense mechanism kicks in that flips her perspective. The thing that was forbidden suddenly glows with a new level of desirability. It's the forbidden fruit effect in real time. If you tell her she shouldn't hang out with a certain friend, or that she can't wear a specific outfit, you are actually stopping the behavior. You are making that behavior the most exciting thing in her world. This is why high-control environments almost always lead to a complete breakdown in trust and connection. If you want to have genuine influence, you have to throw away the rulebook and switch to a strategy of invitation and collaboration. When you respect her autonomy, she feels safe enough to listen to your input. But the second you try to close a door on her, her entire psychological makeup is designed to kick that door down. Respecting her choice isn't just about being a nice guy, it is the only effective way to move forward without triggering a rebellion. The emotional memory bank, why she never truly forgets. Have you ever been blindsided during a disagreement when a woman brings up a specific comment you made 3 years ago, complete with the exact date, the shirt you were wearing, and the specific look on your face? It can feel like she's keeping a secret ledger just to use against you, but the reality is far more clinical. This is the emotional memory bank in action. Science proves that the female brain encodes and stores memories differently than the male brain. When an event carries an emotional charge, whether it's a moment of pure joy or a stinging remark, the brain's amygdala and hippocampus work together to slap a high-priority digital tag on that file. While a man might remember a conversation as a neutral exchange of information, a woman's brain sees the emotional weight of that conversation as a vital survival cue. To her, that memory isn't the past. It's a living piece of data designed to help her navigate her social environment and protect her well-being. This isn't about holding a grudge or being unforgiving. It is purely a matter of biological hardware. The male brain often filters out the specifics of a conflict once the problem is solved, effectively hitting the delete key on the emotional nuances to save cognitive space. However, for a woman, if an event was emotionally significant, it is stored in high definition. This is why she can recall the exact tone of your voice during a fight from 2 years ago. Her brain recorded the frequency of your frustration as a marker of the relationship's health. If you want to build a bond that actually lasts, you have to realize that you are constantly making deposits into this bank. Positive emotional anchors like a genuine surprise, a moment of deep vulnerability, or consistent reliability become permanent pillars of her trust. On the flip side, leaving a negative situation unresolved is like leaving a browser tab open in the background of her mind. It stays live, draining her battery and remaining instantly accessible until it is properly addressed and emotionally resolved. The myth of multitasking, the hidden cost of high performance. We live in a culture that loves to put women on a pedestal by calling them superhuman multitaskers. We marvel at how they can navigate a high-stakes work call while simultaneously soothing a crying toddler and mentally checking off a grocery list. But here is the cold, hard truth of neuroscience. True multitasking is a biological lie. The human brain, regardless of gender, is physically incapable of processing two complex, attention-demanding tasks at the exact same time. What women are actually performing is rapid task switching. They possess a unique ability to toggle their focus back and forth between different subjects with incredible speed and minimal friction. To the outside observer, it looks like magic, but under the hood, it is an incredibly demanding cognitive gymnastics routine. Every single time the brain switches from a work email to a household chore, it pays what scientists call a switching cost. There is a micro lag in focus and a significant drain on the brain's glucose and mental energy. While women may be faster at these transitions than the average man, they aren't immune to the toll. By the time the day is over, she isn't just tired in the way you might feel after a long walk. She is neurologically depleted. Her prefrontal cortex is running on fumes because it has been forced to reboot its focus 1,000 times in a single afternoon. When society or a partner expects her to do it all simply because she seems good at it, they are essentially asking her to run a marathon at a sprint pace. True wisdom in a relationship or workplace lies in recognizing that even the most efficient switcher has a breaking point. Honoring those limits and providing the space for deep singular focus isn't just helpful, it's the only way to prevent total burnout. The sunk cost trap, why walking away, is your greatest investment. The most dangerous psychological hurdle a woman can face isn't a lack of talent or a lack of options. It's a mental glitch known as the sunk cost fallacy. This is the illogical, almost magnetic drive to keep pouring your time, your heart, and your energy into a relationship or a career that is clearly failing simply because you've already put so much into it. It is the voice in the back of your head that whispers, "I can't leave now. I've spent 5 years on this." But if you step back and look at the cold, hard logic, you'll realize that those 5 years are gone regardless of what you do next. They are sunk. You cannot get them back by staying another 5 minutes. Yet, the human brain is wired to feel like walking away is equivalent to admitting that all that previous effort was a total waste. This trap feels particularly heavy for women because of how deeply they tend to invest emotionally. When a woman commits to a path, she doesn't just clock in. She attaches her identity, her dreams, and her future to the outcome. This makes the idea of starting over feel less like a fresh beginning and more like a public admission of failure. There's a specialized kind of shame attached to the thought of leaving, a fear of what people will think, or a feeling that you weren't strong enough to make it work. But here is the perspective shift that changes everything. Staying in a toxic relationship or a dead-end job doesn't save the time you already spent. It just guarantees that you will waste the future time you still have left. The only question that actually matters for your happiness is not how much have I lost, but rather is the next year of my life worth wasting too. Understanding the sunk cost fallacy is like being handed the keys to your own prison cell. It allows you to stop throwing good energy after bad and realize that walking away isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of high-level strategic intelligence. When you decide to leave a situation that no longer serves you, you aren't failing at the old thing. You are successfully investing in the new thing. You are reclaiming your most precious resource, your time, and refusing to let a bad past decision dictate a miserable future. The moment you stop trying to justify the years you've lost is the moment you become free to make the best possible choice for the decades you have left. In the end, the bravest thing you can do is realize that your future self is far more important than the investment you made in a version of your life that simply didn't work out.